Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. One business group weighs in on government's position on vaccination mandates in Trinidad and Tobago. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Thursday, 23rd December 2021. Details when we return.
Conveniently located in the Grand Anne Shopping Centre, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Grand Anse will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep.
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Welcome back. The business sector weighs in on the Prime Minister's announcement on Saturday with respect to vaccination of public sector workers. Dr. Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, said all state employees are to be immunized against COVID-19 or they will be furloughed. President of the Downtown Owners and Merchants Association, Gregory Aboud, says it was a necessary and calculated move. He believes it is essential to getting the country back on its feet. TV6's Nicole M. Romani has more.
The government's position on vaccination has become an issue of contention for some, with trade unions threatening legal action if unvaccinated workers are turned away by employers come January 17th next year. Today, Mr. Aboud tells TV6 he hears the reasoning put forward by the labor movement, but he deems it trivial in the context of the pandemic.
The fact is that this question of good industrial relations practice is really intended to say you have to respect us. Okay, no problem. We do respect you. That is why I think the Prime Minister and the government have been having meetings with the business community and the labor movement together. That is why I think this issue, we are 20 months into this crisis. This is not something, some sort of armchair discussion that you saying we have to consult with you. No problem, we will consult. You know what is going on in the world. This is not something unforeseen.
Noting the daily COVID death toll, Mr. Aboud says the country is running out of time.
There isn't any basis in my mind to doubt the Prime Minister's intentions in wanting to take this calculated risk. He knows what the reaction has been in other jurisdictions to this. But I think that perhaps the government is running out of options. We are, as a people, running out of options. How much longer can we sustain 30 dead per day? That is 150 per week and 200 a week. I mean, it's unheard of and tragic.
According to Mr. Aboud, this country may have become blacklisted in the future if the Prime Minister did not take decisive action as it relates to vaccination.
People who complain that they will be deprived of their income if they don't take the vaccine are ignoring the fact that the entire country will be deprived of its income if this situation of 700-800 infections a day and 30-35 deaths per day continues and persists. We are going to be put on a list of countries not to be visited. We are going to be probably heading into a situation in which we are going to have to store people in tents as we are doing now.
Nicole M. Romani, TV6 News.
Meanwhile, public sector workers who do not get vaccinated against COVID-19 once the government's public sector Safe Zones initiative takes effect from mid-January are not just facing being furloughed. The Attorney General says that furloughs are not indefinite and the end result could be dismissal or job abandonment. He spoke on the matter during a virtual news conference on Tuesday, in which he said he has invited the trade union leaders to discuss the plan, something they have said they will not support. Joel Brown of TV6 News reports.
One can easily expect that this may end up in the courts, that is the High Court, Court of Appeal, Privy Council, in relation to the constitutional issues that spring from this discussion.
Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi, during a virtual press conference on Tuesday, as he announced he is currently settling what he described as draft alternatives of the law for the proposed public sector safe zones meant to increase the level of vaccination against COVID-19 in Trinidad and Tobago.
Now, if we just talk plain, most people will say, well, you're giving me no choice, because the choice is give up my employment and looking after my family as a right that some people say that they have, and that others can convincingly argue, but the courts have already determined a lot of these issues.
As trade union leaders, including those representing the police, fire service, and the prisons service, say they are not in support of the measure, as they see it as a form of mandatory vaccination, the AG maintains that what is being offered to public sector workers is the choice to be vaccinated against COVID-19.
If they choose to not receive a vaccine, for instance, for medical reasons, medical exemption or medical deferral, that they would have to be tested on a standing basis or elect not to continue in employment.
On Saturday, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley announced the proposed expansion of the existing Safe Zones initiative in the private sector to the public sector, so that, except on medical grounds, public sector workers will be required from mid-January of the new year to show their vaccination status, otherwise they would not be allowed on the job.
And you would be furloughed, meaning that you will still have a job on the establishment, but you choosing not to be able to come to work under the conditions laid down, that you will then not be paid.
In light of the Attorney General's comments on Monday, TV6 News sought further details from him during his news conference.
So the absence without leave, the furloughing, the fact that you're employed and therefore still employed but not receiving salary, there is an end to that road in law, because you can't be furloughed indefinitely. Furloughing comes to an end and gets down to the form of abandonment or dismissal.
The AG said any collective agreement can, in a clear version of the law, be subjugated to the law.
And obviously, this is where hearing from the entire trade union movement, as I have written to the vast majority of persons, becomes very relevant. I want to remind that we are not treating with, as some people are casting it, with collective agreements. We are treating with constitutional issues and the law.
The AG said he has received the correspondence from the Oilfields Workers Trade Union that it and other unions are discussing his invitation to have consultations and are to respond to him on Tuesday evening. He said the Registered Nurses Association indicated its leadership is willing to meet with him to discuss the public sector safe zones. Joel Brown, TV6.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Antigua and Barbuda's authorities say they will be redoubling efforts to ensure the nation adhere to the country's protocols regarding the coronavirus in light of the state of emergency's impending removal and the threat of the Omicron variant.
As curfew hours are removed later this week, bars and clubs will be expecting bumper crowds. Cabinet, however, has set an upper limit of patrons at 150. Deputy Commissioner of Police Everton Jeffers says the Royal Police Force will be extremely visible this season.
When we come, we will not just look, we will be going in. We will be doing spot checks. Persons will have to show their cards. So those persons who might have gotten in without a card,
you might be one of those persons we ask to provide your card.
According to Jeffers, this should not be perceived as a target on any operator or establishment.
We are not in the business of targeting people. There are times when we would get tips in terms of a particular business with lots of people there. And at other times during our patrols, we will observe, because sometimes you don't necessarily need to see people, you see cars.
Chief Health Inspector Sharon Martin posits her department will be better staffed in the coming days and will join the police officers in ensuring compliance.
We plan to work along with the police officers when we are going out there to help us with enforcement. Cabinet has promised to give me 10 additional workers to assist in carrying out the surveillance.
Over in Guyana, Aubrey Norton, newly elected leader of Guyana's main opposition People's National Congress Reform PNCR, has served notice that his party will vigorously oppose the appointment of the new Chief Elections Officer Vishnu Prasad.
We are satisfied that Vishnu Prasad was not the best candidate. It is a collusion between the PPP commissioners and Claudette Singh, and therefore, automatically, it will face protest in every fashion.
The leader of the People's National Congress Reform, Aubrey Norton, on Monday during the party's 21st Delegates Congress Declaration and Inauguration Ceremony. Norton, who made this announcement mere minutes after he was officially declared the new leader of the party, shared the firm belief that the appointed GCOM chairman is not qualified for the position.
But as we look at elections in the party and vouch for its transparency, we cannot sit idly by and allow the PPP and Claudette Singh to install Vishnu Prasad as Chief Elections Officer. We need to restore in this country the situation where people are appointed based on merit and in keeping with the specifications of the job.
Vishnu Prasad, a former Deputy Chief Election Officer of GCOM, was appointed Chief Election Officer on December 10. Both Vishnu Prasad and former Director General of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, Leslie Harrow, were shortlisted to be interviewed. But at the end of that exercise, Prasad was chosen. In justifying his appointment, Chairperson of the Ghana Elections Commission, Justice Claudette Singh, conveyed that Prasad has acquired institutional knowledge, having been employed with GCOM for 17 years. Justice Singh posited that Prasad is knowledgeable not only with the understanding and management of the work of the CEO's office and the operational functions of the Secretariat, but also with the geography of Ghana's 10 administrative regions. Even so, the new PNCR leader believes that Vishnu's appointment threatens the possibility of free and fair elections. As such, he vows to tackle this threat by any way that the party seems fit.
As a party, you strategize and you implement as you see fit. We keep all options on the table. We wouldn't rule out the court, but we wouldn't say we are going to court. We will use the options available to us at the time that they are needed with the greatest of efficacy we can find.
Over the past weeks, Vishnu's appointment has been heavily criticized by APNUAFC Commissioners Charles Carbon, Vincent Alexander, and Desmond Trotman, who referred to the appointment as a travesty. Snide remarks were also made by Joseph Harmon, who deemed the appointment to be politically motivated. Meanwhile, still on the topic of GCOM and elections, Northern also vowed to ensure that there is a new voters list. For the HGP Nightly News, Kendall Richmond.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.